So you might be going through a period of self-doubt, insecurity, fear, which is causing procrastination from taking actions towards an aim of your choosing. It's pretty crazy. Like, you're probably not an INFP if you haven't said to yourself, why am I always feeling so much? Why am I so sensitive? Why does my mind do this? Or why do I even think these thoughts? Right? Well, that's the thing. Like, as INFPs, we feel so much. We take in so much because of our dominant function. What happens is that we create these scenarios in our heads, right? And these scenarios can come from imprints or conditioning or past experiences or a mental fabrication of future predictions of, when aimed in the right direction, they can be really good and useful. Like in my last video, how I talked about, visualizing and feeling the positive, right? The end result in a good way. But when aimed in not so great of a direction, it can be quite detrimental to our progress because, again, we feel everything. So what happens is we have these thoughts and we project them onto the consciousness, you could say the screen of our minds, right? And think of thought as like Play-Doh. So as we think these thoughts or create these thoughts, we see them and we experience them as if they're happening in real time. And when we connect to that and it feels so real for us, for example, like things not working out or self-doubt or, people judging us or us judging ourselves or so on and so forth, it can be really hard to take action from that space. So one of the lessons that I learned earlier on my journey was that we're only ever feeling thought taking form in the moment. So I just want to pause for a second because it's not so much in the conceptual understanding of this, but it's in the seeing of this, right? So we're only ever feeling our thinking. We're only ever feeling thought taking form in the moment. So even though it can feel really real, what we're experiencing internally, and it does, right? It's really just a mental fabrication or a distortion, if you will, of our own projections, like what we're playing on the screen of our minds. And so if you liken it to, let's say, a movie, right? Like you watch a movie and you're wrapped up in it and it's like a beautiful movie and you're feeling all the emotions, you're feeling all the feels, but the moment you turn the TV off, it's gone. Like, you might think about it later, but the movie's finished, right? And the same as like a horror movie. Like if you're watching a horror movie and you're feeling all those emotions intensely and like you're getting wrapped up in the movie and you're feeling all the shock and the awe and the jump scares and all that. But once you turn the movie off, it's off. It wasn't real. It was a play that was created by a bunch of people. It's kind of like the same as what we do up here or in here, right? So that's what happens. We fabricate a reality in our minds which feels really, really real. And if you're feeling it, which you are because you're an INFP, then you're probably not going to want to take any action. So here's the key. When that happens, you don't try to figure out, like, so imagine, here's a metaphor. Imagine like there's a snow globe and you're the character in the middle of the snow globe. And so once you start to have these thoughts, you're kind of shaking up the snow globe a little bit. Now, the more you think and the more you get into it, and the more you feel like you're shaking up the snow globe even more and more. And then so the globe starts to get really cloudy with snow. Like it's kind of hard to see, where to start, where to take action, whatever it is. And then what we do as we're shaking up the snow globe and it's in full tilt, like snowing, we try to figure it out from that mental space, from that space of limited mental bandwidth. We try to figure out from there. It's almost like adding more noise to an already busy mind. So the key is not to try to figure it out, but just to see that you're shaking up the snow globe, right? With more thoughts, perpetuating more thoughts, and with more emotions getting into the mix and creating these, alternate realities that can feel really real. But once you see through that, once you see it, so once you stop shaking up the snow globe, your mind settles and you come back to that space where your mental bandwidth opens up. So you come back to a space of clarity. It's from that space of clarity where you can start to see the reality of the situation or the truth. For example, like you can just start to see that, oh, I'm just at the beginning of my journey, or there are a bunch of things that I need to learn or skill sets that I need to develop. So then you become a lot more objective about it instead of spending time living from a distortion or a mental fabrication and feeling all the feels before you've even started, before anything's actually happened, or things that you can't control. And operating from this space is a much more liberating space to operate from versus trying to take action from that space of being lost in the snow globe while the snow globe is shaken up and trying to navigate through all that snow. The more you practice this and the more you see it or see through it, the deeper those insights will come. The first time you see this, it can be quite a profound experience. And again, it's not a conceptual understanding, it's an actual experience. And so that's kind of what I want to point to today. So to give you an example of one of the insights I had or experiences where I had this profound shift was in 2020 lockdown. It was 14 days of hotel quarantine, and the hotel that I was in, it was really nice, but there was no windows. And in the beginning, so the first 10 days, I went into it with a lot of optimism, and I had my routines on point, and I was really, really productive. And we kept getting these notes every single day, and we had this message board, like this Facebook group that people could talk about, what they were experiencing. And we had all these positive messages like keep going. But I started reading those message boards, and a lot of people were complaining about air, like not having any air or not being able to go out because we weren't allowed to go out for the 14 days. And at around day 10, like I was totally fine, but at day 10, it started to get to me, and I started to start to have all these thoughts, and I started to create, I create these scenarios on the screen of my consciousness about, the bad quality of the air and not being able to breathe properly, because that's what everyone was saying, and I was kind of being pulled into that. It was like a gravitational pull. And as I was thinking about that, I started to have all the feels. I even started to feel a bit choked up. I started to feel as if the air wasn't good, and I kept I was like visualizing, just like COVID circling around the hotel and stuff, and basically freaking out. And then I had that moment where, like, I had that realization, and I saw it. I was like, oh wow, like I'm not feeling the bad quality of the air, although I don't have any windows. I'm feeling my thinking, like what's getting me all worked up and what's getting me stuck in this kind of limited mental bandwidth and this emotional stress and this anxiety and everything that I'm feeling is that I'm feeling my thinking. And the moment I saw that, my mind like settled straight away. Like it just went like that. It was like this profound shift in consciousness, you could say, where I just suddenly became really, really present. And I realized that, well, thinking these thoughts or living into all of this isn't going to help me. And it's definitely going to help me it's definitely not going to help me stay productive throughout the remainder of my quarantine, my lockdown. And I'm just getting worked up and I'm not enjoying my time here. Like, because regardless, I can't do anything about the situation. I can't change it. So the moment that shift happened and I got that insight and my mind settled, then I was able to get back on with work and yeah, finish it up and have a good time in quarantine, or make the most out of it anyway. Oh, fresh air. Gimme. Oh, feels so good. It feels so good. So I hope this has been valuable to you, and remember, it starts off as conceptual knowledge, but it's really the experience that you're looking for. It's an insight that'll come to you. Like, you may watch this video and kind of get it, not really get it, but then it's when you actually have that experience where you're caught up in the mind, you're feeling all the feels, and all of a sudden you see it. It's in that moment of seeing where the shift occurs. So I hope that's been helpful, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.